So the NFL has recently taken a couple of L's and kind of look a little bit shady here. I'm specifically talking about a couple of legal battles and how they would prefer to handle the situation, and considering the courts have ruled against them in both of these cases, it's not only worth talking about, but this could bring about some interesting changes in how the NFL goes about lawsuits like this down the road. So I've got to talk about that, some concerns about Matt Stafford's back issue, a semi-surprising retirement, notable players to watch this weekend during week 2 of preseason, and more right after. Alright, first up, I'm starting to get more and more concerned about Matthew Stafford, and here's why. As most of you know, the Rams quarterback has missed all of training camp as he's dealing with an aggravated disc in his back. Despite that, head coach Sean McVay has remained adamant that Stafford will be available for week 1, which is only 3 weeks from now. Last week, he received an epidural, talking about Stafford, not McVay, to help alleviate some of the pain, but that's more of a temporary solution and doesn't actually fix the issue in Stafford's back. Then last Saturday, Matthew Stafford did a workout at the Rams facility in which he threw 68 passes. Well, on Sunday, the next day, McVay told the media that he expects him to be out there on Monday participating in individual drills, and that did not happen. Apparently, Stafford's back didn't respond the way they had hoped because while he said he felt good following the workout on Saturday, 2 days later, it wasn't good enough for him to hit the practice field. Still, though, McVay has continued to say he expects Stafford to be ready by week 1. He spoke with the media yesterday as well, and when asked if surgery was a possibility for Stafford's back, McVay shut that down, saying they haven't considered that as an option. Quote, "We're trying some different things that are hopefully going to be in alignment with getting him back out on the field." From there, McVay shared he hopes that Stafford's back responds a little bit better this go-round, so tomorrow they're going to put Stafford through the same workout they did last Saturday and hope that his back responds better this time. But truthfully, even if it goes okay and he's able to start ramping up his activity at practice, I am still worried about him holding up over the entirety of the NFL season. Adam Schefter expressed the same concerns, telling the NFL Live crew he thinks this is problematic as Stafford is 37 years old and back injuries are known to linger sometimes. I do hope Stafford is able to get right because when he's healthy, the Rams are absolutely contenders. A lot of us forget just how close the Rams were to beating the Eagles and Philly in last year's divisional round. It really went down to the wire near the end of the game. Jimmy G, if Stafford can't go, is the next man up and the one that's been running the show in Stafford's absence. He's a fine backup, one of the better ones in the league, but there's no question that this team's ceiling is exponentially higher when Stafford is under center. The other concerning aspect for the Rams is their left tackle, Alaric Jackson, is dealing with blood clots in his lower leg, although I do think he's progressing well and should be good to start week 1. Stafford and Alaric are probably the two most important pieces on that offense, with Puka and Kyron Williams close behind, so this is definitely worth monitoring here. Next up, 10-year veteran guard Brandon Scherff announced his retirement from the NFL yesterday. It comes as quite the surprise to some people, as the 33-year-old played in all 17 games each of the last 3 seasons for the Jacksonville Jaguars, so no real major injury concerns that I'm aware of. It was kind of telling, though, that a player of his caliber was still a free agent at this point in the offseason because the 5-time Pro Bowler was believed to have strong interest from multiple teams. But instead of signing elsewhere, he's choosing to call it a career after 10 seasons in the NFL, 7 with Washington, who drafted him 5th overall in 2015, then the last 3 in Jacksonville. So shout out to Brandon on a great career, and considering he's made over $111 million in his career, I think he should be all set for retirement. All right, from here, we got to talk about the fact that the NFL has taken not 1, but 2 L's this week in separate lawsuits that they're involved in. First, former NFL coach Jon Gruden is in the midst of a legal battle with the NFL, and right now it looks like he has the upper hand. Sorta, you'll see as I break it down. In case you have no idea what I'm talking about or you are unaware of the ongoing updates to this saga, Gruden resigned from the Raiders back in 2021 after offensive emails he wrote over a 10-year period became public. Gruden didn't want to resign, but it was basically either that or get fired, so the choice was pretty simple. It was a shocker at the time, as just 3 years prior, Gruden had signed a 10-year, $100 million contract to be the head coach of the Raiders. Those emails, by the way, included some jabs at Commissioner Roger Goodell, which is a key piece in this. So Gruden resigned in October of 2021. Then roughly a month later in November, he sued the NFL and Goodell, alleging they deliberately leaked those emails to essentially destroy his career and ruin his reputation. In the years that followed, most of the legal battle hasn't been over the details of the case, but rather where this case should be resolved. The NFL has wanted to push this case into private arbitration, as they have an arbitration clause that all league employees must abide by. But the thing is, Gruden was not an employee at the time all those emails were sent years prior. He was actually working as an analyst for ESPN, not as a coach for the Raiders or anyone else. So he, rightfully so, has been adamant that this lawsuit should be public, requesting that it proceeds in a Nevada district court. During the time this was going on, Gruden said it's ridiculous the league thought they could cherry pick emails from years ago when I wasn't even a coach and try to end my career. At a minimum, I deserved the opportunity to respond and receive some due process. Well, earlier this week, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled in Gruden's favor, saying that the arbitration clause in the NFL Constitution is unconscionable, or not reasonable, and does not apply to Gruden as a former employee. It would also be ridiculous because Roger Goodell would be arbitrating a dispute involving himself. Pretty obvious conflict of interest there since he's a defendant in this lawsuit. It was a 5-2 decision from the court, though the NFL is expected to be appealing the ruling, which could delay this case even further. An NFL spokesperson initially declined to comment, but said Tuesday the league would ask the Nevada court for a rehearing. If that fails, the most likely next avenue would be an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Holy smokes. So that's basically where it's at right now. Gruden got a win for now because this lawsuit will be handled publicly, in theory, and not behind closed doors as much as the league wants that to happen. After this was announced a few days ago, Gruden's attorney shared a statement saying they were very pleased with the Nevada Supreme Court's decision, not just for Gruden, but for all employees facing an employer's unfair arbitration process. Quote, "This victory further vindicates Coach Gruden's reputation, and it clears the way to swiftly bring him full justice and hold the NFL accountable." Now, obviously, this does not change what Gruden has said, because there's a lot of crazy things shared in those emails over the years, but this is a step in the right direction. Whether or not you think Gruden should actually be allowed to coach again in the NFL, we'll see what comes from all this, but man, it is a crazy situation to keep tabs on, that's for sure. And then, Jon Gruden is not the only former head coach in the midst of a legal battle with the NFL. Brian Flores, the current defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings and former Dolphins head coach, sued the NFL and several teams, including the Dolphins, back in 2022. He sued Miami for wrongful discharge. He then sued the Giants and Broncos, basically accusing them of running a sham of an interview process when they had no intent of hiring him. Then the Texans are the other team in the lawsuit, with Flores accusing them of removing him as a potential coaching candidate in retaliation to him suing the Dolphins. Flores is going after the NFL itself as well, accusing them of systemic racism, particularly in its hiring and promotion of black coaches. Since filing the lawsuit, some other coaches have joined in as plaintiffs, so siding with Flores in the case. The suit itself is still ongoing, but this is really similar to the Jon Gruden situation in that the NFL wants to handle this through arbitration. Well, yesterday, a federal appeals court decided that the league can be put on trial over this, ruling that Flores can proceed with the claims against the league as well as those teams that I mentioned. This ruling came after the court found insurmountable flaws with a league arbitration process that would allow Roger Goodell to serve as arbitrator. Sound familiar? Yeah, it seems shady on the league's part, and the appeals court didn't hold back, saying that the NFL's arbitration provision is unworthy even of the name of arbitration. Once again, they're basically trying to keep everything under wraps, talking about the NFL and behind closed doors, with the appeals court adding it offends basic presumptions of the arbitration process because they don't provide an independent arbitral forum and instead force claims to be decided by the NFL's principal executive officer. That was a lot of word fluff there, but that is the flaws that Flores' attorneys harped on, saying for too long the NFL has relied on a fundamentally biased and unfair arbitration process, even in cases involving serious claims of discrimination. This ruling sends a clear message. That practice must end. This is a victory not only for NFL employees, but for workers across the country and for anyone who believes in transparency, accountability, and justice. Again, just like Gruden's case, this is far from over, but it's a win for Flores' side as this will now proceed in open court. NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy said, "We respectfully disagree with the panel's ruling and will be seeking further review." So yeah, it may be a while before we actually see anything come out of either of these cases, but the league took a couple of L's here in the past few days, which is honestly probably for the better, especially when it's coming off the heels of the collusion scandal involving the NFLPA. But hey, let me know your thoughts on both Gruden and Flores' cases in the comments down below, and if you think something might actually come from this or not. Next up, as we head into the second week of preseason, there's a few young quarterbacks that I'm going to be keeping eyes on this weekend. First, I'm excited to see Dillon Gabriel most likely make his NFL debut with the Browns against the Eagles tomorrow afternoon. Shedeur got the start last week as Gabriel was out with a hamstring injury, but now Gabriel is the healthy one, and Shedeur is going to be out with an oblique injury. No official starter has been named as of when I'm recording this video, but I'm expecting him to get a good amount of reps, and it's going to be interesting to see how he performs and how that will influence the QB battle for Cleveland, who have a half a dozen quarterbacks currently on their roster. Then I'll be watching the ongoing quarterback battle in Indy between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson tomorrow as well. According to Shane Steichen, Daniel Jones is going to get the start and play about 2 series, and then Richardson will come in and finish out the first half. They actually modified their plan for this game a bit as well. Richardson wasn't initially going to play this much, but after he dislocated his finger in the first quarter of last week's game, they wanted to get him some more playing time. And I don't blame him, because I'm not really sure at this point in time who's going to end up being their starter. Caleb Williams will also get a little bit of time in Sunday's game against the Bills. That will be his unofficial debut with new head coach Ben Johnson calling the shots. I'm sure they'll keep the offense fairly vanilla, but it'll still be good to see the new look from the Bears offense, even if it's just for a series or two. Somebody we won't see, though, is Travis Hunter, who suffered some kind of upper body injury during practice yesterday. They're going to hold him out of the second preseason game because of it, though head coach Liam Duval Cohen said it's minor and they're going to only be holding him out as a precaution. There's honestly a ton of games going on this weekend, so probably at least a half a dozen more noteworthy additions that I should add to this list. I only mentioned a few, but those are at least some that stood out to me. Let me know who's going to stand out to you, who you're going to watch, all of that stuff, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.
Breaks the